It's green for go. They're racing.
He says go.
He says ta-da.
And Tiger Tara roars away from them on the home turn.
Here comes another big boil over.
Equine athleticism at its best. The king is in the castle once more.
This is in one race. The rest are almost in another postcode.
She is a star with a capital S. It's going to be a triple treat, a miracle three-peat. Ladies and gentlemen, you have witnessed history here at Menangle. What about that?
It's getting right up on the sprint lane and it's going to bolt in.
Hello and welcome to the Sprint Lane podcast. It is episode 99 and I do have something a bit special for next week's podcast, but more about that next week. Great to think that since this podcast was introduced, we've had more than 20,000 downloads. Good support, and I thank you for downloading and tuning in every week. My name is Greg Hayes. This is the Sunday Hayes session where I have a look back at racing, concentrating on New South Wales and especially the Menangle meeting on a Saturday night. As usual, I'll be reviewing each and every race later on in the Menangle Express, but it almost feels wrong to not start the podcast this week by talking about the performance of Leap to Fame at Albion Park in the Blacks Are Fake. I was lucky enough to cover the sport when Blacks Are Fake was at the peak of its form, and I started working in the racing media 30 years ago, so I've been lucky enough to cover some pretty special horses. Probably the first big horse that I got to cover was our Sir Vancelot. Of course, he dominated the Inter-Dominion there for some time. Courage Under Fire, Christian Cullen, Blacks Are Fake, Sokiola, I'm the Mighty Quinn, Smokin' Up, Lazarus, Adore Me. The list goes on and on, but I'm happy to say Leap to Fame is the best horse I've seen and covered in my working career that spans from 1994 to now. The way in which he destroyed his opposition on Saturday night at Albion Park was breathtaking. He was brilliant. I've said before on this podcast, I left the media in 2019 suddenly, and I'll talk more about that later. But he is one of the reasons that when I was approached to see if I was interested in doing this, I came back and said yes. I could see he was a special talent. I think it's fair to say I didn't know he was going to have the 12 months he's had, but I knew he was special and I wanted to talk about him and speak to the people around him like Grant Dixon, like Trista Dixon, and like Kevin Seymour. He's just a special athlete. He's one of those rare horses that can attract people to the sport. Fingers crossed he's around for a long time to come and can attract many eyes to our sport. Away from Leap to Fame, it was a big night for New South Wales on the track in Queensland. Royal Cruiser won the first for Bernie Hewitt, one of three Bernie had in that race. Don Hugo won the second, and it showed the people helping Singo look to have made a good decision in selecting the horse for the Singo slot in the Eureka. Blazing Home won the third at a big price for Jared Alchin. Probably not enough slot holders left for him to get a start in the Eureka, but he definitely wouldn't be out of place in the race. Race number 4, the Oaks. That was meant to be an easy one for New South Wales with Millwood Bliss, and after a comfortable run in front, she was beaten in a sprint up the straight, surprisingly. Race number 5, the Derby. Now, that was won by Major Hot, co-trained by David White, former Riverina boy who now lives in New Zealand, so congratulations to David. Race 6, the Protostar, the only race where we had a complete strikeout. Thoughts are with the Thurstons after Bittersweet had to be scratched earlier in the week. She'd been so dominant. She won the Gold Tiara, but now, well, not a lot really has gone right for Brad Hewitt in Queensland. Obviously, they had the issues with Extreme C before they went up there. New South Wales trained horses 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th behind the champ in the Blacks Are Fake. London to a Brick won the Queensland Trotters Cup for James Rattray. Tay won the Mares race for Jason Grimson, and Reset the Bar won the last for Brad Hewitt. So 10 races and New South Wales trained horses won 6. Huge effort by all of the stables and congratulations to the connections. So after saying all of that, who's on the podcast this week? Well, I think it's fair to say that our attention now shifts quickly to the Eureka, which is now just over a month away. The favourite for the race is the WA-trained Never Ending, after he made it 2 from 2 since resuming at Gloucester Park on Friday. I spoke with Justin Prentice 5 minutes after he came off the track on Friday night. Big thank you to Justin to make himself available. And I'm really looking forward to playing that interview for you in just a moment. My second guest this week is Cameron Fitzpatrick. Now, some in the industry would say Cam shouldn't be promoted on his return after being involved in the infamous green light scandal that struck the sport more than 10 years ago. He brought unwanted headlines on the sport, and the sport as a whole was damaged by all of those that were involved in the whole affair. However, I want to say this, nearly everyone deserves a second chance, and sometimes when you're given a second chance, it plays on your mind as to how you're going to be received and whether it's worthwhile on attempting to get involved again. I wasn't banned from harness racing, but I left the sport abruptly in 2019, worked one Saturday night on Sky Racing, and then left the sport entirely. Not a lot of people know what happened. I had been struggling with mental health issues for quite some time in the lead up to leaving Sky. Not many people would remember, but I missed the entire 2018 Miracle Mile Carnival, and that was because I went to a mental health facility to try and get help. Returned to work after nearly a month away, however, still wasn't right, and just over a year later I had to leave Sky Racing. Took me another 2 stints in the facility before I found my feet again. I moved out of Sydney, went and got a normal job, worked in the public service, and I'm now in Goulburn. Out of the blue, I was asked by Peter Buckman from Harness Racing New South Wales if I was interested in hosting a weekly podcast about a year ago. I still followed the sport, but only from the perimeter. I had cut a lot of people out of my life that were mates that were in harness racing, and I was racked with anxiety because I just wasn't sure how I'd be received by the participants if I came back to the sport. Would people talk to me? Would people be laughing at me? Did people think less of me? What did people know? What didn't people know? It was a really big decision that I thought about for some time before agreeing to get involved again. Now, Cameron Fitzpatrick was a star of the sport, and he brought shame to himself, his family, and the sport. So a decision to return wouldn't have been easy for him. He could have easily walked away and we would have never heard of him again. Please don't think I'm saying Cameron didn't deserve what he got, because that is not what I'm saying at all. He deserved his penalty, but coming back would not have been an easy decision. So I'm going to welcome Cameron back, and he'll be joining me later in the podcast to have a chat about his comeback and what he did during his time off. As I mentioned before, I'll review each of the races at Menangle from Saturday night. Mr. T, he'll pass on a couple of tips later in the podcast as well. And hopefully, one of us can find a winner this week. Big podcast to get through this week. First up, let's hear from Justin Prentice.
Down the back, Soho Dow Jones at the 450, leads by a metre and a half. Never Ending travelled up comfortably on the outside, talks up a storm, runs into a clear third, Hampton Banner, and then came Armour Rhinestone back on the inside up to the turn they run. 28 won the next quarter, Soho Dow Jones just in front. Never Ending the outside, talks up a storm is running home gamely 3 wide. Armour Rhinestone drove up behind them in the straight. It's Soho Dow Jones and Never Ending. Never Ending has surged past Soho Dow Jones, talks up a storm, and then came Armour Rhinestone, but Never Ending's doing it well over the final stages, and Prentice sends him home. Never Ending has won by 4 metres to Talks Up a Storm. A metre away, Armour Rhinestone, and fourth in the weakening Soho Dow Jones.
Well, the Eureka, it is getting closer and closer, and the horse that's favourite for the race, Never Ending, he has had the 2 runs back in WA. He's won them both. Justin Prentice has done a remarkable job with the horse. He's got an incredible record, and he is going to be something very special when we see him across here in the East. Justin Prentice is joining me to have a chat. Congratulations with the win, Justin. 2 from 2 this preparation. Well done.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. Yeah, really happy with his run tonight, and obviously first up he went super, and tonight, completely different kettle of fish over a mile, and sort of popping him around to the breeze, which he hasn't really sort of done too much in his racing career, but it was really good for him to do something different, and settled really good in the run. And he felt like he sort of really done it within himself tonight, which is really pleasing.
So going into the race, did you think, yep, I'm going to have to do something different tonight? Tonight's the night I'm going to have to go around and put him into the chair?
Not really. I was hoping they would go mad for 800 metres and I'd just sit him up again. But when they, sort of sorted themselves out and there was no speed, I did sort of have a plan that, if I have to put him into it, I will, because he seems to be sort of racing a lot more genuine and that now, and can afford to do things like that and get him to settle. And so, I think, in the long run, it's probably a good thing for him to have to do that tonight. And first time over a mile. Obviously not really the lead up sort of race over a mile that we wanted to go into a Eureka, but potentially we'll go around again next week if he comes through the run tonight, all right, and that'll be his last run here before we head over.
So tonight, when he was able to get up outside that horse at the 400, you seem to be absolutely bolting. You look to have a lap full of horse.
Yeah, he was. He was. I probably thought that he would actually sort of get on the chewy a little bit more, and sort of was surprised that had to flick him up. But I think that's just sort of how relaxed he is now. Obviously, I'm not very experienced in driving him in races. I drive him a hell of a lot at home, all the time at home, and I know he is relaxed at home. But I thought in the racing scenario, he might sort of rev up a little bit, but he really was just sort of waiting for me to let him know when I wanted him to go. And he travelled really good in the run. He steered really good, which is sort of the issues that we've had in the past. And I think the big track at Menangle should really suit him with that big long straight.
We saw first up, he has got electrifying speed. If you can save him up for one go at them, I didn't think he was a chance at all with 400 to go first up, and he just absolutely exploded.
Yeah, he's got unbelievable speed, and obviously, like a really good high cruising speed as well, which is, the asset that he needs for the free fall racing over here. So I think, the racing that we sort of gave him leading into the Nullarbor and sort of really made him sort of grow up and mature and just sort of harden into that sort of racehorse that we wanted. He was just a big baby before that, and I think it's been really good for him. So, he's versatile enough now that he's settled in his races. But yeah, I think, off a hot tempo, I'd love to see him rip down that straight.
Mate, how hard is it for a trainer in WA to get to fly a horse across to the east in terms of organising the logistics? Are there planes going all the time, or do you have to work in with the transport mob? How does it all work?
Yes, I've only done it once before, and it was sort of pretty easy. And I was sort of just rang up, pretty late, and this time we've obviously had a lot longer time to try and organise it, but I don't think that necessarily is going to help with that side of it. So I've spoken to the guy that we deal with the flight, and initially he sort of said, he's obviously not aware of anything, and there's sort of no horses travelling, so we'd have to sort of take him over on a crate himself. But spoken to him this week, and he thinks that he's found a galloper that wants to head over. So that gives him some company to travel with, and it can be a bit of a hassle with sort of flights getting cancelled last minute and not actually getting on the flight. So hopefully that's something that we don't have to deal with. But yeah, I've practically booked accommodation over there for 4 weeks, having really not really sure when I'm going to arrive, but I've just booked it. So when they says, we're good to go, then obviously everything's sort of sorted my end over there.
Ideally, what preparation would you like to give him in the east? Just the one lead-up run to the Eureka?
Yeah, at this stage, if we went sort of really early, I would have missed this Friday coming, and then, I would have looked at probably giving him a trial beforehand. But I think I'll probably just sort of get over there and got plenty of time to settle him in. And then, yeah, obviously I can take him to Menangle and give him a workout on the track, let him see the track, and then hopefully have that one run a fortnight out from the Eureka, so we can see the track properly, and that should sort of top him off and have him right for the night.
So everything looks good for Junior, doesn't it? He'll be able to head across and drive him during his Eastern campaign?
Yeah, he was able to get a bit of time taken off, which allows him to drive in that first run, which is really good. Obviously, Junior's been, a huge part of his career, and helping, me sort him out and trying to get his steering right and getting him to settle and that sort of thing. So obviously Menangle's such a different track, not only to drive on, but for the horses to get around. So compared to Gloucester Park especially. So for Junior to sort of have a feel of him at Menangle and fine tune anything that we need to before the Eureka was really important. So I was rapt that he was able to get that bit of time off, so he's available for that.
Mate, it's a really good story. You went to the sales to buy him, and he went a little bit more than you expected that he was going to go for?
Yeah, I hadn't. Yeah, I mean, now the yearling sales over here, that 75 sort of not that much, but I'd never paid 75 for a yearling before, and Sweet Lou's had sort of not really sold very well in New Zealand that year, but I just bought him on tight more than anything, and he was my favourite one, so I sort of just try to be, strong with him. And I remember after I bought that, it seemed a lot of money to spend. I was shaking like a leaf after I bought him, and a bit worried about spending that much on a Sweet Lou when they just sort of sold so badly in New Zealand. But bloody glad I did now. And 75 looks like a pretty good buy now.
And so most of the guys in the horse, are they all regular stable clients?
Yeah, most of them are. Like, it's a big syndicate, but there are some owners that have sort of been, like not first time owners, like in that syndicate. There's like a group of, probably 4 or 5, people that go in, majority of the syndicates. But there's some of the people that are in this guy that they haven't been in hardly any of the horses before, or not for a long, not for other horses with me in the past. So it's really good for them, and pretty sure they've all got their flights and accommodation booked, and can't wait to head over and just enjoy the experience.
Mate, how does it feel to have the favourite for the world's richest harness race?
Pretty surreal. Probably try not to think about that part of it. It's like pretty surreal just to have a horse, in that race, and just so grateful that, Rob wanted to, look after and support a West Australian horse, and like have the confidence in, myself to be able to take him over, and hopefully we can get the job done for Rob and all my really loyal owners.
Mate, just finally, before you started dealing with Rob for that slot, had there been any other interest from any of the slot holders, or has it just been Rob the whole way along?
No, we had a little bit of interest last year, just from one slot holder, and I wasn't interested in taking him over as a 3-year-old, especially not to take on horses like Leap to Fame and Catch a Wave, and he wasn't, like the race horse that you'd want to be taken over for that then. So this time it's he had a bit of interest from somebody else and Rob, and I think it was just really important for the owners to sort of feel like we stick with somebody from WA, and guess a bit like a state of origin, sort of feel like we're coming over as a team together, and hopefully we can do WA proud.
Mate, it is a great story. There's no doubt about that. We can't wait for you to get here. He is going to be the X factor in the race because we haven't seen him race the horses over here in the East, so he's going to be something different. One last question. If he performs really well through the Eureka, would you come back for the Inter-Dominion, or are you just going to concentrate on the big races in Perth over the summer?
Yeah, I'll just come back here. He's still got like the Golden Nugget 4-year-old race and a couple of other 4-year-old races. If he comes through the Eureka well and we can get him home and he travels home well, then we'll just come back and sort of look at aiming him at those 4-year-old races here.
All right, mate, thanks very much for your time. You're a busy man and you've only just got off the track, so thank you very much for that and all the best of luck. We look forward to seeing you when you get across here to the East.
Yeah, can't wait. Thanks, Greg.
Cameron Fitzpatrick back in harness racing after a long break, and drove at Penrith on Thursday and then at Menangle on Saturday night, had a number of drives, and be interesting to see how he's coping with being back in the sport. He's joining me to have a chat. Hey Cam, how are you?
Good, thanks, Hazy.
Mate, it has been a while for you since you've been back driving. How have you found the first week?
Yeah, it's been a bit testing. Couple of things didn't go as planned, but that's part of racing. You've got to get used to that.
First drive at Penrith on Thursday night in a number of years, in more than 10. How were the nerves going into that race?
Yeah, well, it ended up being 12 and a half, Greg. I was good all day, and then just near the race I got a bit toey, but once I was on the track I was pretty good.
And then Menangle, how did you find it? Obviously the weather wasn't kind to you. It was very cold and pretty foggy, very hard to see what was going on for the people watching on TV, but how was it out on the track?
It was very muddy. First drive out there, I got about 100 metres into being on the track, and I was pretty much covered already. So, it was a proper welcome back.
Mate, has the racing changed since we've last seen you in the sport?
Yeah, it's definitely got a lot quicker. It used to be a little bit more soft start. You'd sort of burn early. Then a lot of the times you got a chance to duck around if you wanted to, but it seems to be a lot more free flowing now. So yeah, that's something to get used to. But I felt pretty good tonight.
How long do you think it's going to take you to feel like you did 12 and a half years ago?
Oh, well, it took me a while till I felt real confident on the track back when I was driving full time. But a few months, I reckon I'll be right. Hey.
And what's happening? So you're working for your dad at the moment? Is that your way back into the sport?
Yeah, I went back to the farm with Dad and Gavin, and just back to the old roots, and just finding my feet at the moment, and it's a perfect place to do that. I know the place well, I know the horses, it's going good.
And what about outside stables? Has there been stables that have been in contact? You obviously had a few drives at Menangle for outside stables. There's obviously been some support from a few people out there.
Yeah, the support's been unreal, actually. I wasn't really expecting that. I was a bit edgy how things were going to go, how I was going to be received, but it's blown me away. And, Robbie Morris rang me to drive a couple, and, Alistair Cops put me on one, and my good friends Scotty McDonald and Peter Hanson, I used to drive for them back in the day, and I really appreciated them putting me back on.
One placing at your first night back at headquarters with She's a Pleasure, and it hit the line pretty well when you got it to the outside. Yeah,
she, the one in front of me, I was just trying to get it going a bit earlier, and if it did, I reckon I would have nearly got him. She hammered the line. She was very impressive.
Mate, no secret as to why you spent so long out of the sport. I'm not going to go through all of that. How tough was it for you away from the sport? As someone who left the sport after making a couple of errors, it's exactly what I did. Spent 4 years away from it, missed it terribly. That's why I came back. How was it for you sitting away from harness racing?
Yeah, it definitely took me a few years to come good. I'd only ever pretty much worked on the farm. I'd had one job, and it had all been involved with horses. And when it finally sunk in that I couldn't do that at the time, it was 15 years. It was really hard. I couldn't find a job I enjoyed, and about 3 years in, I found a job at Oak Ridge, back working at a horse farm, spelling and rehab, and I just sort of, once I started there, I started to get in a rhythm, feel good again, and I ended up staying there for 4 years. And then I tried to get back to racing. I tried to get a stable hand, and that fell through. So then I ended up leaving the horse place. So after that failure, I just wanted a break from horse farm and that again. So I went worked in the road tunnels, and I did that for the last 5 years till my time was up.
So working like that, very physical, a lot different from being involved in racing full time. did that make you miss the sport even more?
Yeah, like training horses and that. It's not brutal work, but it's constant. But at least at the end of the day, you can drive winners. Where working in the road tunnel, there was 12-hour night shifts, and there was no winners. Let me tell you. So yeah, it was just constant hard work, and it did me good, but it really grounded me and made me realise how keen I am to get back. So yeah, it did me good.
Yeah, some time away from the sport definitely can teach you how much you love and have passion for the sport, and you appreciate your second chance. There's no doubt about that. Mate, what about mentally? How did you cope being away from the sport? You said it's all you knew. So all of a sudden having that taken away from you, mentally, how did you cope?
No. Early on, I was awful, Greg. I suffered from depression well before I got time. Actually, in about 2009, I think I got diagnosed with it. And yeah, when I got in all this trouble, it sort of hit me again. And you know, you're not happy where you're working, and it just all builds up. And yeah, I had to go get help and do what you got to do. And yeah, it was very tough. I had some bad times, but I was lucky. I had good friends and good family, and otherwise, who knows? Yeah, it would have been real tough.
Mate, was it because of the rules that were imposed on you? Was it difficult because the family was still had horses? Like, what were you allowed on the property? What were the rules in terms of what you could do when you went home to see your parents?
No, so for those that don't know, we have a 40-acre farm, so I was only allowed to go to the house and nowhere else. So I could go there for dinner and that. Which yeah, I did that probably once a week. But yeah, at the time when I got in trouble, I was living there and obviously had to move out. So that was really hard to do. But luckily I went and lived with my auntie, and she was really good to me. But it's still tough when you live there your whole life and you got to say goodbye because of something you did wrong. Like, it's a hard pill to swallow.
So, mate, what does the future hold? You obviously still love the horses, and you know you're working for your dad and Gav at the moment. What do you see the future holding for you?
I'm just going to see how the driving goes. Like, so far the reception's been amazing. If that keeps going, I'm happy to keep freelance driving. If it does dry up, then yeah, we'll put the training cap on and concentrate on that. But I've just bought one from New Zealand. I'm going to just muck around with, but at the moment that'll be the only one in work.
Mate, I know I had nearly 4 years away from the sport and turned up for my first night working back there, Eureka night last year, and I just wasn't sure how I'd be taken when I got back to the track, and it was amazing to feel the warmth. Have you felt that? Like, there's probably some people who, you know, turn their back on you, but how have you felt the industry as you've come back to the sport?
Very, very good, Hazy. I was very nervous. Like, I don't like any confrontation or that, and I was worried it was going to happen. I won't lie about that. I was quite anxious going to my first when I had my first trial drive, and that it was a long drive to Penrith. Put it that way. I wasn't sure if I was going to get out of the car or not, but once I got out and saw a few people, they were very welcoming. It was like I'd never left. So yeah, it's been really good.
Well, mate, you know, you put your hands up. You said you made a mistake. You've been given a second chance. And, mate, I wish you all the best of luck, because everyone deserves a second chance at something they love. And, mate, all the best of luck going forward.
I appreciate that, Hazy. Thanks for having me.
Time for the Menangle Express, and we start with race 1 at Menangle on Saturday night. The fave was Pitch Perfect at $3.30, and there was a lot of speed early in this one. Ricochet, Craftsman's Charlie, and Pitch Perfect all went forward in the early stages. Pitch Perfect was driven very aggressively to get the lead by the time they hit the first quarter. Fast 26.4, so they settled like this. Pegs, Pitch Perfect, Craftsman's Charlie, Ricochet, Surface Delight, Running Line, Double Act, Dance and Deliver, Little Bliss, Jillaby Nitro and Vanquish Stride. 28.8 second quarter, so no loafing in front. Craftsman's Charlie was being urged along at the cages. Looked to be in a bit of bother. Pitch Perfect travelling in front, set up a nice break on the turn, 27.9 third quarter. Ricochet looked to be going okay, but had nowhere to go and had to wait for a run. They fanned from the tail. Vanquish Stride started to make ground, but Pitch Perfect was off for the prize. Good aggressive drive by Josh Gallagher was rewarded. 27.5 home, fast 150.6 mile to open the night. Vanquish Stride good up the straight. Craftsman's Charlie battled on after looking in trouble and thought Dance and Deliver had its chance after racing in the right spot. Ricochet, no luck, going well. Race number 2, fave was Pete Said So at $3.30. It showed its customary speed, as did Arden's Ace, and a smart drive from Amanda Turnbull with Max Delight. As both of the horses who went out early look for cover. Max Delight ended up getting the front in an average 27.1 first quarter. So pegs, it was Max Delight, Pete Said So, Arden's Ace, Boom, and On Deadline. Running Line, Miss the Truth, Unfazed, Perfect Stride, Star Major. JOK was caught 3 wide, kept moving to race first over, but it took 600 metres to get there. On Deadline galloped on the pegs momentarily at the 850. Speed went out of the race in the second quarter, 30 seconds. They took off prior to the turn, and while they ran a 28 third quarter, the last 200 of that split was clearly faster than the first 200. On the swing, Max Delight was going well, and it wasn't rolling off the pegs to give Pete Said So that run that it got last week. Arden's Ace eased to try and find clear running, but never got it. JOK kept on battling to hold its position. Really smart drive for Turnbull. Max Delight got home, 27.1 final quarter, 152.2 mile. Miss the Truth. Got a nice run, ran second. Pete Said So never got clear until late, but it looked to be flat anyway. Perfect Stride, good. Okay, JOK, brave. Arden's Ace, 8th, but never got a crack. Forgive it. Race number 3, Our Mate Menko was the $2.80 favourite. There's a bit of speed in this. Watch Me Dazzle, Stir Me Up, and Our Mate Menko all went forward. Stir Me Up ended up squeezing through the middle of the two of them to lead, which meant Our Mate Menko was caught outside them. On the pegs, Stir Me Up, Watch Me Dazzle, Kaitoa, and The Exorcist. Running Line, Our Mate Menko, High Voltage, Way Out West, Delightful Star, Bertie Jones. 26.7 first quarter. The brakes, they jammed them on. 29 for the second. When they got to the cages, Our Mate Menko was gone, which forced High Voltage out very early with Way Out West tagging it. 29.1 third quarter. Leader looked in trouble. High Voltage raced into a very commanding position. Kaitoa was looking for clear running, but nothing got near High Voltage in this run up the straight. 27.7, 152.5 the mile. Stir Me Up battled on well after being a part of the early speed battle. Way Out West tracked the winner to the turn. Kaitoa saved ground throughout. Race number 4. And the fog started to roll in. Fave here was Cash and Bling at $3.10. Celsi Bill, My Ultimate Carter and King Tiger all showed speed, and My Ultimate Carter worked to the front. They looked to all drop into Indian file. However, King Tiger, who was going to sit 3 pegs, came forward again and got the front, and then it was single file. So King Tiger, My Ultimate Carter, Celsi Bill, Cash and Bling. Colin Bromack, Red Reactor, Barra Riley, Bartello and Pops Boy. The lead time, 49.3 over the longer trip, so good enough. And the first quarter, they pumped the brakes a little bit, 30.9. With around 900 to go, Cash and Bling came first over from 4 pegs, and a few jumped off to follow it. 28.7 second quarter. Cash and Bling went really quickly as it levelled up with King Tiger at the cages. Colin Bromack, who came off to follow Cash and Bling, couldn't make up the ground to hold its spot, so it gave My Ultimate Carter a chance to come off the inside and track Cash and Bling into the straight. 28 seconds around the side. Bartello was trying to make ground from the tail. As they turned, My Ultimate Carter loomed, looked the winner. He grabbed Cash and Bling. Geary was trying to get Bartello to balance up down the outside, and once he got it to go straight, put them away really quickly. 28.9 up the straight, so only slow. Mile rate of 156. Bit worried about the form out of this one, to be honest. My Ultimate Carter, I said last week I thought he was just plain last week. Well, he's had every chance this week, couldn't finish it off. Cash and Bling third, moved really quickly from the 900 to the 600. Didn't mind the effort of Red Reactor in something easier, running home over the top of a few late. Race number 5, Fave here, Ultimate Bird at $3.20. This was the feature. He was sent forward early, Ultimate Bird, and crossed to the front comfortably despite the wide draw. 27.5 first quarter. They found their positions pretty quickly. On the pegs, Ultimate Bird speculating Winona Ryder, Waterboy Jack, Vinky B, Kalara Samurai. Running line, Ugachaka, Mr. Blue Chip, I'm Rocking It, and Mick Danger. 27.5 first quarter, and then the speed came right out of the race. They backed it off to 30.6. Still no moves to the corner, and the leader had received the perfect run in front. Should have had a big kick. 28.4 to the turn. Ultimate Bird kicked away, got to the 200, looked the winner. Mr. Blue Chip pulled out on the turn. I'm Rocking It, tracked it. Ultimate Bird, I thought it was home, to be honest, but they started to reel him in late. I'm Rocking It, after a good run last week in the heats, powered home and won. Good effort. Mr. Blue Chip came with the winner and finished second. Ultimate Bird looked to have every chance for third. Thought the run of the beaten horses, or the best run of the beaten horses, was Mick Danger, who came from well back and finished off well. Horses racing extremely well. Final quarter 27.4, mile rate 153.9. Race 6, Fave here Has the Courage at $4.60. Brave backing it at that price. Racing well, but needs a lot to go right for it in its races. Now, the fog had well and truly rolled in by this stage, so it's very hard to see them at the top of the track. Speed early from Colonia Courage, Tishan Raider and Ryan's Gangster, but it was Tishan Raider who got across to lead. So pegs, Tishan Raider, Colonia Courage, Better's Hope, Ryan's Gangster eased and got 4 pegs. Captain Richie, Sheffield Sparky and Has the Courage. Running line, Smooth Buzz, Joni N and Wave the Bill. The lead time was 50.6. As they got to the judge with a lap to go, Captain Richie came off the inside and went first over. 29.8 first quarter, 28.6 was the second. Then they ran into the fog, and it was very hard to see what happened in the back on the back corner. 28 seconds around the side. When they came back into view, Tishan Raider was in front. Colonia Courage had come to its outside. Better's Hope had gone around the wheels of both of them to have a crack. Ryan's Gangster was sticking to the inside and hoping for a crack at them, and Has the Courage had worked to the outside and was flooding home. In a driving finish, it was Colonia Courage who got the nod. 28.8 for the final quarter, mile rate of 156 over the longer trip. Tishan Raider Brave, Has the Courage placed, and I thought Ryan's Gangster's run was pretty good. It can go back to the midweeks and win for sure. Race number 7, Fave here, Mac Da Vinci at $2.60, and this race was very hard to say much about with the fog covering up the horses for a great portion of the event. Total Diva Double Encounter showed speed in the early stages. It was Total Diva who found the front. So on the pegs, Total Diva Double Encounter Surf Ace. Running line, Black Onyx Roll Up and Boots Electric, which left Porter Prince and Mac Da Vinci out 3 wide on a limb. First quarter, fast 26.7, and then the runners went into the fog. And the next time they came into view, Mac Da Vinci had rolled around to the top. Middle quarters, 30. And 27.8 as they raced back into view in the straight. Roll Up had put them away pretty comfortably and won by 7.2 metres. Total Diva ran second, and it's put together a couple of good runs back-to-back, so she's ready to win. Boots Electric came from well back to finish third. Mac Da Vinci finished fifth. He's nowhere near his best at the moment. In the last 12 months, he's produced some pearlers with the high speed he's got, but to be unable to beat that field on a Saturday night, and with the mile rate of 152.7, he's racing well below what we know he can do. Final quarter for the record, 28.3. Not a lot out of that one. Race 8, the trot, Toro Stride was the $1.60 fave, and there was some speed early with its Fergie Time and Sunny G going forward. Hot to Trot made an error, was out the back. Toro Stride didn't want to be part of the early battle, but as soon as Sunny G crossed its Fergie Time, Toro Stride was off the pegs and went to get the lead. So on the pegs, it was Toro Stride, Sunny G, its Fergie Time, She's a Pleasure, Aldebaran Jensen and Chief Running Cloud, with One Magic Kenny off the pegs first over. One Magic Kenny pressed on, and by the time they got to the judge the first time, it was in front on the pegs. Lead time 51.5, followed by a first quarter of 30.7, slightly quicker 30.4 second quarter. Nothing took off until they got to the turn. That quarter was 29.8. Toro Stride came around One Magic Kenny. She's a Pleasure was trying to get its Fergie Time to go and give it some cover, but it didn't come off the pegs. So She's a Pleasure had to go solo. Sunny G was gallant in the straight, but Toro Stride just got that nice run and was able to hang on and win. Final quarter 29.3, mile rate of 2 minutes and 1/10. Sunny G, honest as they come, And I think She's a Pleasure was a really good run after having to make its own luck around the corner. Hot to Trot did a good job to beat home a couple of runners after galloping early. Win of the night, I'll go with Pitch Perfect. Driven like it was the best horse in the race, dominated the first, put its rivals away in a very slick mile rate, put the writing on the wall last week with a good run, and Josh Gallagher drove it extremely aggressively. So win of the night, I'll go with Pitch Perfect. Best beaten effort of the night, Hot to Trot was only beaten 15 metres in the last after galloping, but that was his own fault. I'll go with Mick Danger in the Winter Gift Final. Was well back in the ruck and flew home late for fourth. If it goes back to the midweeks, it's going to take some beating. And best driver of the night, hard to tell what the last few did because of the fog. Fred Hastings did a great job behind the binoculars. Amanda Turnbull produced two good drives. Max Delight, she just outthought them with that one. Knew the lead would be there, so went forward, got the top and proved too strong. I'm Rocking It, got the right run, but steamed down the straight to win the feature. But I'll go with Chris Geary on Bartello. Had a couple of speed bumps when one or two came out in front of him and they stalled, but still got the horse to the outside to win. So driver of the night, Chris Geary on Bartello.
Winner, winner, chicken dinner.
Winning. Hey, that's pretty good.
Winner!
That was legitness.
That I say, all right. Wow, winning.
Bam! Just like that. That's all there is to it, Dustin. That's all there is to it. A winner! Just like that.
Neither Mr. T or I got a winner last week, so not a great 7 days for us. Now, Mr. T, he's off with the A-team this week, saving people, so unfortunately we don't have his tips, but when they do come through, I'll record them. I might even tweet them out. I'll keep the scoreboard updated. After last week, I've still got a narrow lead. Minus $36 for me. Mr. T is minus 54. So for the record, my two tips, both at Menangle on Tuesday, and I'm going back to the well with both of these. I've tipped them recently. Race 4, number 10, Kalara Kamikaze. Tipped it on debut off its efforts at the trials, and then made a meal of the start and ran last beat in a really long way. Finds itself in a very winnable race. They don't come much easier. It's got the ODM now. I still think it's going to take some beating. It just has to make sure that it trots or paces throughout. We just don't want to see it go up in the air. So that is in race 4, number 10, Kalara Kamikaze. And race 7, number 4, Lenny's Angel, officially 9th last start, but had absolutely no luck and went to the line untested. A few people looking at the numerical form rather than watching the videos might give this one a wide berth, taking on Tisbury Rocks again. So I'm looking for a bit of a better price this week. Let's go with Lenny's Angel and hope Lucas Rando gets out of the pocket this week. That's race 7, number 4. That just about wraps up the podcast for the week. I forgot to mention off the top, Wayne Loader has confirmed his runner for the Eureka after having Extreme C and Extreme C going amiss. Wayne now goes with I Keep Smiling. It gets the slot, giving Luke McCarthy 2 in the race, and congratulations to the team at Success Stud. The Gibson family have been great supporters of the industry for many years, and it's great to see them with a runner in the world's richest harness race. Don't forget, next week's podcast is episode 100. I'm going to look into the future next week, or try to. I'm going to try and get a snapshot of how the future for the sport looks in the state and the country. So make sure you join me next week when I'm back for another edition of the Sprint Lane podcast and the Sunday session. Bye for now.